Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. We are continuing with our discussion on the union budget proposals for 2021-22, which we had a discussion on yesterday in Hindi. We are doing this program now purely in English, and here on this program for 8 o'clock, which is Wait for 8, will be purely in English, and the Hindi programs you may catch up with at 5 p.m. with Kumar Shrikant and Satyaparak Bharat. What was called Satyanveshi Bharat, that channel's name has changed to Satyaparak Bharat. And you are now on Sirf News. Now, Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman on Monday left tax rates largely untouched and bet big on privatization and asset creation as the engines of, as the engines to power the Indian economy out of the post-COVID slump. The finance minister made it clear that the public sector would be restricted to just 4 strategic areas, and even there to the minimum extent needed. Is this good or is this bad? The declaration that 2 public sector banks and a general insurance company would be privatized, mind you, the banks and the insurance company have not been named. Now, these were particularly striking departure from the past, because so far we have seen that the governments have been dilly-dallying or a bit circumspect about privatization ever since the fall of the Vajpayee government in 2004. Both Manmohan Singh government and the Modi government of the past 6 years have been very wary of using the term privatization, whereas we have been hearing this for donkey's years, that it's not a business of the government to run businesses. The FDI limit in the insurance has gone up from 49% to 74%. That's another significant development. And after everything, without increasing the tax, what was feared that the fiscal deficit would go up to 9.5%, it has gone up to just 6.8%, though it is a far cry from 3.5% that several governments, successive governments have targeted, but have been unable to achieve. I think in one of the years of Arun Jaitley, when he was the finance minister, he could attain a fiscal deficit of 3.8, which was very close to the targeted 3.5. We'll discuss all the pros and cons of these proposals. I begin with Surendra Srivastava ji. He belongs to the Lok Satta movement, which was earlier the Lok Satta party. He excels in policy decisions. The Lok Satta regularly advises, or I would say gives suggestions to the government as to how this country should move forward. We also have with us Gyanendra Avasthi, who has been an activist. He works in the corporate sector, but is very critical about the private sector at the same time. We have with us Shugato Hajra, who is an analyst as well as political commentator. Welcome to the show, all of you. Surendraji, to start with you, how do you view yesterday's budget?
Well, I think it's a dream budget for me, because we have been advocating capital expenditure based budgeting for a long time, very, very long time. And India has been shying away from that kind of investment and more focusing on the social sector. While social sectors are equally important, but at the same time, I think money or wealth creation is not going to happen unless there is a push for the large consumption on the economy, on the infrastructure side. So I think for us, it has been 4 or 5 very, very plus points. Of course, two or three disappointments. But taking overall picture in account, I think government could do only that much. I feel that this is the first time we are seeing that there is an honest budget. I don't think there is an accounting Gulmal kind of presentation. I think
no fudging, yes, no
very,
fudging.
very, very honest accounting, and I think the entire deficit financing has been properly accounted for. So I doubt whether it will fall beyond that whatever numbers have been given. Secondly, I think although many people will not have never used the word privatization, and they've used disinvestment, so I will not go by the words, but I think that if the targets are met, the execution is a problem, and therefore we need to see how they perform on the disinvestment side or privatization side. I think that brings a lot of merit onto the into the economy, efficiency into the economy, and I think
Right.
economy will grow faster than expected, and it will cover the deficit according to whatever finance minister says, and we believe also. The good thing is
Surendraji, one question. Other than this huge impetus on healthcare that we heard from the speech yesterday, the other focus area was infrastructure. Now, this government has constantly been pouring in public money into roads and other kinds of infrastructure, and also saying at the same time that this in turn will generate employment. Has this happened so far?
Yes, I think there is a mixed experience right so far. I think the infrastructure impetus was there, but it has not taken full shape. We believe that infrastructure capital expenditure will definitely generate growth. Of course, it has to be managed well. The execution is a challenge. But if the simple logic, economic logic is that if the money is poured into the infrastructure, there is a lot of industries which are directly connected with the infrastructure, which will grow a lot, and infrastructure development itself will generate a lot of employment directly. Of course, maybe an unorganized sector, but it will generate the most. See, the important is that they've increased the outlay by 34%. In the infrastructure, which is a great leap forward. And similarly, 94,000 crores to 2,24,000 crores for the healthcare, I think is a dream for us. Of course, a significant more money is required, but I think over a period of time, good thing is that now nobody can touch 2,24,000. They will not be able to bring it down further, but it will grow from there. So I think that's a very good positive side. And some of the schemes like all the subsidy will continue, but they are trying. The government's execution so far has improved the subsidy utilization, and that has saved a lot of money. And the link and the schemes like PLI in the core sector where the exports, particularly export, will increase. I think those are the very nice thing to see. As I said earlier, unless the civil services reforms happen, unless the rule of law is established, those are the fundamental issues. Which
finally it boils down to the how efficient the babu at the desk is.
Absolutely.
Yes.
And two disappointments which I wanted to present to you in the beginning itself. One is that we are very happy with the outlay for the rule of law. I think the infrastructure required for the establishing rule of law requires a lot of funding. Some, to our mind, I think some impetus should have been given, not a big way, but I think some direction should have been given there. And the education, I think the policy has been announced, but policy without the funding will not take a shape in the direction in which they want. So I think these are the two areas which are concerned. Otherwise, I think it's a fantastic budget. We will say in 74 years, I think this has been the best budget, even better than the 91.
All right. Thanks for the initial comments, Surendraji. We are also joined by Advocate Sajan Singh, who is not, leaning towards the left or the right. It will be very interesting to hear him out about his assessment of the budget. But we'll come to you, Sajanji, later. Gyanendraji, was my way of introducing you right? I'm sure you are not impressed by the budget.
No, I'm very much impressed by the direction of the budget.
Okay.
As per policy and as per direction, the budget has been definitely very good. But the crux of the matter will come when we will face the execution of it. And I'm afraid to say that the cost realization, the price, the fair value of the assets which will be sold is something which is definitely a cause of concern. I am worried about that. Because as a design, as a matter of strategy, those assets may be undersold.
Okay, but you are not saying like socialists, desh ko bech diya, right?
No. I'm not saying that. But since the government had already ruined the economy in last 6 years, so it was the only solution possible going forward. This was the only solution possible.
Okay. Shugato, you agree that the government ruined the economy over the past 6 years?
Anyway, that's the way you look at it. I do not know. I mean, I do not agree with that, of course. But the thing is, yes, the budget Ultimately, it will depend on the execution of that. Yes, I agree with him. The asset value of the assets that will be selling, that will be hugely debated, and everybody, whatever be the price, will say it has been undersold. Or or many of the people will say the price is very high, so we cannot buy. All these lobbying will go on. But the most important thing is 1.75 lakh crore has to be raised. And that is the pillar on which the 6.8% deficit is standing. So that is the most critical. And yes, finding the right value, well, right will be defined by right, left, center by differently. So that's not important. But
Yeah.
getting the value and raising 1.75 lakh crore, that is the most important part of this budget. Yes, the budget is very, very good in the sense that it, under the circumstances, it could not have been done better.
Okay. One question, Shugoto. While the banks that will be privatized have not been named, and even the insurance company that will be wholly privatized has not been named, we are absolutely sure, and it has been stated also that LIC will be partly divested of. How do you look at that?
LIC will be listed. That Nirmala Sitharaman said separately.
Yes.
That she has said. So LIC will be listed, and one insurance GIC will be divested, and 2 banks will be divested. Well, those they
Okay.
have to explore how the market happens, and then they have to do it. It's better that
Right.
they do it.
Right. Sajanji, join the discussion on budget. Let's remind the viewers that when the government had first decided to privatize a part of the insurance sector during Vajpayee's rule in the year 2000, the FDI limit was rather low. And from there on, it went up to 49% some years ago, and now it is 74%. How do you look at it? There were fears initially that we will be taken over by multinational companies, but we saw that despite the presence of all kinds of insurance companies that you see now, general insurance, if not life insurance, the Indian companies are still surviving. They have not gone, which means that Indian companies are capable of meeting up the challenges of the competition. Sajanji.
Please. Yeah. As far as the insurance company is concerned, 74%
FDI.
BJP has been allowed. FDI has been allowed. That previously it was 49%. So more and more emphasis that has been given to the insurance company how you tap the market, because this is the only territory that is not been still that has not been cultivated. But I'll be saying that more and more people join this insurance firm, because only 2 or 3% or 4% you can see that the Indian people that they are covered with the insurance. And as far as the LIC is concerned, the 2 aspects I will say here. First, if they have increased 24%, and second, the IPO of LIC. You know, the time have said that not only this government, even the previous government also, that LIC money has been divested badly. LIC has been made in the pawn in the hands of the government to give that money to this sector, that sector. So as on today, LIC, despite of putting best of effort, is not profitable or not as competitive as much as of the foreign insurance company. So that is the good move of the government. What I will say about the LIC, that is the IPO has been listed and the GIC will be disinvested, because you have to tap the market on the traditional mindset. That is if the foreign companies will come, so our own company will die. Is natural death. That is a foregone concept as on today in the competitive market, because the Indian company has to stood their own legs to compete with the foreign companies. It would be better. It would be better signal by the government if the foreign company will come and completely tap the undeveloped market of India.
Right. Whatever be the sector, it's always preferable that we have a choice on the platter. It's not that there is a monopoly and then we are forced to buy just from one vendor, which was a scenario that Indira Gandhi had created and it sustained for such a long time, thereby, leading to such a sluggish rate of growth in those years. Surendraji, I'm continuing with the insurance sector. How plausible is the threat perception of Swadeshi people about 74% FDI in the insurance sector?
Well, Swadeshi has to be seen in a context.
Right.
Swadeshi does not mean only Indian. As long as there is a control and management and the regulation regulated in India, I think we should consider that as an Indian. I don't think just going some profit outside India is considered as a completely foregone conclusion. No, I don't think so.
Right.
As long as they remain India, they are focused in India, I think that can be a part of the Swadeshi overall Swadeshi concept. So I think the wording and conceptually here and there, I think I don't want to get into those kind of things. But overall, I think the direction on insurance is very right. First of all, Surjit, I think let us understand principally that government has no business to be in business.
Yes.
Having understood that now how to get out of the business which they are already there. By maximizing the returns and the money they have already invested. Now, if you see even in insurance, there is as Sarunji Singh said, that there is a threat definitely, because unless you improve the efficiency of these insurance companies, they will die their natural death and they will land into a similar kind of situation like Air India. So I think it is better to take steps now when the market is good, and I think we get out of and get value, realize our valuation. I'm just focusing on the question on insurance. Let us realize the valuation as much as possible, as long as we can regulate them within India. So I don't see any problem, any challenge coming from.
Let's deal a bit, because general insurance and life insurance also have to do something with our personal lives, how insured we are. A sensitization of which is not very high in India, unlike in the West. And yet we have seen that when to whatever extent FDI was possible, when the foreign players came in, we came to know about new concepts of insurance, new ways of insuring ourselves, which the general insurance companies of India, which were state-owned, were not providing us with. Therefore, now I move to another aspect of our personal lives that this budget touches. Let's begin with what the finance minister has announced for senior citizens. The ease of dealing with your tax liabilities if you are beyond 75. There's no need to get yourself hassled. But not just that. Let's talk about the entire tax-paying lot of the country. This is one thing which does not bother me much. And I will explain why. Despite being the middle class, whenever a government is asked, whatever have you done for the middle class, they talk about income tax slabs. Now, I tell people that income tax is something you pay once in a year. Your life does not become better or worse just because you're paying a few thousand rupees more or less in a particular slab that you fall in. Your life becomes better if you have more purchasing power, if you save more. And these are the aspects that are determined by the pricing mechanism of the market, the demand and supply of the market, how many choices of vendors you have in the market. To that extent, how successful has it been? Surendraji and then Gyanendraji, one by one. Yeah.
No, I think on the taxation, I think nothing much could have been done, and I think it is much better than what they have not even changed any slabs.
Yeah.
And they are not asking any more contribution from the people. And in fact, they are assuring, even in the pandemic time when they are not increasing the slabs, or I was expecting some kind of cess coming here and all that, and this is something I woke up with a shock that I am saved. So I think it's a wonderful thing which finance minister has done, and I think direction is very right. I think we have to further rationalize the tax system. We can't collect taxes only for few people. I think we need to widen the tax net, and I think even this farm sector reform, there is some kind of catch there in the as far as the taxation. Whenever time comes, we will discuss about it. But I think we need to increase the tax base, and I think that's the focus of the government. And I think we should encourage that. The more honest people come into the system, the better will be for all of us. I think that's the concept. I think it's a wonderful thing that they've done.
Right, right. Gyanendra I'll add something to the question that I asked Surendra which is, when this government came to power in 2014, before that, although none of the prominent leaders of this government made that promise, there were murmurs that income tax could be abolished. One of the campaigners for this government, Baba Ramdev, used to advocate transaction tax instead of income tax. And Subramanian Swamy had once said that this is a possibility we can explore. He did not make any promise, but he said this was a possibility which could be explored. Now, why I'm raising this issue is I find the concept of income tax fundamentally or philosophically flawed. I'll tell you why. It is only the salaried class that cannot hide its real income. The business class underreports its real income, and helped amply by chartered accountants. It is only the salaried class whose income is deducted from the source. So there is there is not even a scope that you can fiddle with it, or you can hide a part of it. So in effect, what happens is a very small section of the Indian population ends up paying genuine taxes, and the poor don't pay it anyway. So finally, it's the salaried class that is squeezed more and more. What do you think about it?
That's correct. Actually, I feel actually looted by the government when I pay 35% income tax, I pay GST, I pay road tax, toll tax, this tax and that tax. So out of my total income of rupees 100, I end up paying around 75 rupees to the government in so many taxes. So that is definitely unfair. And but government is not able to do anything about it as of now because of the economy which has tanked. So government is facing the revenue crisis. That is understandable at this point in time.
Right.
But this unfairness gets further accentuated when we compare ourselves with corporate tax. That corporates are required to pay 25% and an individual is required to pay 35%. That is grossly unfair. So I expect better from government on this front.
Okay. Yeah, Shubha, to come in on this because, additionally, the fact that only a section of the population is paying this particular tax, when we talk about the alternatives of income tax, transactions tax has got its own problems, which different countries that have tried it have faced it. There's also a huge, accounting problem if you begin transaction taxes. But if you keep increasing consumption or expenditure taxes by some decimal point percentage, maybe the deficit that we will incur by abolishing income tax can be made up. For example, whatever we buy from the market, and that is a tax that even the poor people pay. Whether you buy cooking oil, whether you buy salt, whether you buy rice or lentils, anything, there is a component, there is a consumption tax component there. So no one can escape it. You cannot go to the chartered accountant saying, "Mera chawal sasta kar do." Right? So how about that as an alternative? Okay, I think we have lost him. Sajan ji, you may take up the question. Instead of income tax, can we increase every consumption tax by a few decimal points, so that not to pressure the consumers much, and yet doing away with
my point of view. Yes, my point of view is as far as income tax is concerned, government has to increase their net. So how many people you are covering with the taxes? Because the liability of taxes, every citizen has to pay. Because that has boost your infrastructure, boost your economy. Because unless until you pay the taxes, from where the government will get? Government cannot get the fund from heaven. Ultimately, the people who have to pay the taxes. So certainly government will expend.
But the government isn't getting much by way of income tax. It's not getting. It's not getting much by way of income tax.
But instead of putting much more taxes beyond the income tax, it would be better for the government to increase the net of how many people you can convert with the taxes, so that your income can more and more income can be generated. I'm not in a side with that. More and more taxes should be imposed. because already you're covered with the GST. In every step of the life, if you have to pay the taxes, no, will nothing but the covered with the taxes that ultimately you will be losing in this. So instead of
Okay.
imposing the taxes of 4 or 5% of the people of this country, it would be better to tap more people. That my suggestion is.
All right. All right. Now, before we move to the MSME sector, which was the other focus of the budget, I would like to ask Surendraji, whatever happened to the 20 lakh crore package that Nirmala Sitharaman had announced post-budget last year? You know, she had a tendency, we were discussing yesterday in our discussion over the budget, that once the budget day is gone, Mrs. Sitharaman has this tendency to suddenly realize, you know, a big day has passed her. And then she again convenes a press conference to make some new announcements. Now, mercifully, it hasn't happened today, but hope it does not happen, because you cannot miss this big day, right? What was the need for extra announcements last year?
See,
Yes.
this government, two things are very clear from this government's functioning so far in the last 6 years. One is that the government is always on election mode.
Okay.
Number two, they are always on budget mode. So they keep although they promise that okay, they want a very sustainable policies and very open policies and all that, but I think they have been tinkering with these kind of policies. Maybe they are not able to understand, or they are not able to convey properly. So so last time I think they definitely missed out a lot of things which they realized later on, and they had to announce certain measures immediately after realizing that this may really boomerang, and they will not meet the budget figures also, and they will not realize the budget aspirations. And thirdly, I think the COVID pandemic by then I think had set in, and they had to initially declare certain relief packages which they consider that as a economic package, which are not. Basically, they are all in terms of providing credit or providing support, immediate support in terms of credit and all that. Not necessarily in terms of putting money in the pockets of the people, barring the food program and barring some cash DBT and all that. So they had this problem, and they had to address that.
Right. But what about an audit audit of the 20 lakh crore which has been expended according to the promise last year? Whatever happened with that money? How much did it benefit the MSME? How many jobs did it create, etc.? Surendraji.
That data is not available. Actually, that's another problem. The government is not coming out with the data. So that data, they are not linked to the investment or the package with the data. And I think they have not declared the data as such. Right. It's very difficult to judge. And frankly speaking, I don't think much benefit has come out of that kind of packages.
Yes, because there was also a criticism, Gyanindraji, you can come in on this. There was a criticism when this package of 20 lakh crores was announced that this was mere circulation of money. It was not some extra amount coming from anywhere. It was not a grant. It was not even a loan. But it was, how you can use this money which is already floating in the market.
That was about unleashing the liquidity in the market and providing the solutions to MSMEs that if they are in need for finances, then they can have some easy access to that. So, but that largely that has not been utilized by the MSME sector and other such sectors for whom it was meant. But the kind of economy which we are heading towards is going to actually get concentrated at the top. So oligarchy is going to be a problem for us going forward, and higher concentration of wealth in the hands of top 1%, that is going to be a problem to us. Amidst the crisis that we do not have strong institutions, this problem will further fortify, and government will not be able to redistribute the wealth generated as such. So that is going to be a problem, number one. And number two, the galvanization of economic activities will concentrate in few hands, top few hands. Those are the problems which we are going to face in future. and I am afraid to say that we do not have any solution to that as of now, because we lack strong institutions, number one, and number two, government's inability to redistribute the wealth. Because once they capture that economic power, we will not be able to tame them.
Okay, so you are not seeing a very bright future of MSMEs. You think that the large corporations are more or less, going to keep this captured under them. That's what you're saying.
Particularly, this I am saying so in view of fourth industrial revolution, which has just started, which is about artificial intelligence, algorithm, etc., etc., etc. So that galvanization is going to take place. There is no doubt about it. So public
do
will
you
have
share this, right, Sajanji? Do you share this skepticism that there isn't a bright future for the, medium, micro, small enterprises?
MSME, please. No.
MSME,
During the period of COVID, I have been hearing the finance minister about the package given to the MSME. But despite of putting much effort, I could not understand what she is saying and what package that has been delivered to the MSME. And Sujit, that is, MSME happens to be the backbone of our economy. If you want to achieve your target of 5 trillion economy, no, the MSME could play the crucial role in the economy, Indian economy. But sorry to say, this is the most ignorant sector. Government does give emphasis to the agriculture and big corporation, but forget about the MSME. And this is the most sector which is hit by the COVID. And
what
is the only sector
exactly
that
do you think? What do you think government could have done better for the sector?
Startup. This is the base of startup also. This
I'm asking. What I'm asking is what else the government could have done for the MSMEs, which it did not do.
No. Government give the clear-cut packages so that it can reach to the MSME sector properly. Because the package that has been announced by the government is not going to uplift the market, MSME. Uplift the MSME. It will not generate the fund. It will not give the fund.
Right.
How the MSME can play the role in the economy that government has to address. There is a much more problem the MSME is facing right now. Government has to address the issue, but government has failed to address that issue.
I was also coming to the demand and supply question, Surendraji, because for long this slowdown in the market has been attributed to the demand side problem, not a supply side problem. So if you keep extending support, if the state keeps extending support to the sellers rather than buyers, who is going to buy? And if there is no demand for buying, how will the market revive?
No, I think this infrastructure funding will increase the demand, because consumption ultimately will come only when the people have money in their hands. And how the cycle, this is a cyclic change. If you invest in the infrastructure, you are building a capital asset. At the same time, while you are building the infrastructure, you are giving impetus to all the kinds of material which is required, industry which is required to support this infrastructure. There is a direct employment, therefore people are getting money in their hands. Through the growth of so it's a cyclic change. Through the growth of cement industry, there will be employment, and money will roll in their hands of the people. So it will take little time, maybe a year or two, but I think demand will increase and the employment will be generated. As far as the MSME question, I think I'm not too much concerned about MSME, because MSME are there to stay in India, because I think there is a focus of this government on MSME, and there is a lot of many things should be done, as Sajan Singh ji said, but a lot of things have been done already to encourage them to, and this PLI scheme is directly connected to the MSME sector. Actually, this is nothing not for the large sector at all. So I think there is a impetus towards that. Lot more things can be done if the money is there. So I think over a period of time, if the growth takes place through the infrastructure impetus, I think money will be available for other sectors to be pushed in.
Right. And if we are, constantly complaining that nothing is being done for the MSMEs, at the same time, in stark contrast in the international, going by the assessment of the international agencies. They are saying every year that India is constantly improving on the ease of doing business. So this must be benefiting the MSMEs. What do you think, Gyanendraji?
On ease of doing business, MSMEs have actually they need to be doing much more than what has been already done. That ease of doing business is for corporates, top businesses. That is not for SMEs. SMEs are still facing a lot of problem from inspectors and this and that and so many formalities. So on
This
that
is
front,
something,
government can
don't you
definitely come
think,
forward and help them
this
out.
problem, Gyanendraji, this problem that you pointed out, it's very critical to, a hassle-free business environment in the country. But don't you think it is more up to the local governments to rein in these inspectors?
Obviously, not only local governments, but state governments, central governments. Every government is involved. Every government is in that network. So they together have created this problem, and that is a huge mess for the SMEs. So definitely, government can definitely help them here. And once they help them, they will be able to do a lot better than they are doing currently. Number two,
in fact, let me share with the viewers my interaction with members of the Niti Aayog. Surendraji, last year, before the lockdown began, I had a discussion with some of the members. I cannot name them here because it was a private discussion. But very genuinely, when I pointed this out about the practical problems that a businessman faces, you open a business, a new office in Connaught Place, and immediately you are served 30 to 50 notices that you have not complied with such and such orders. And the bulk of those notices come from MCD, not from central or state government. They come from MCD. Now, what the members of Niti Aayog told me was that unlike the Planning Commission, we do not breathe down the neck of state and local governments. We are a consultative body. So if a state government comes up to us saying that we are really hassled by these babus, these inspectors, then we are ready to give certain proposals, certain suggestions. But otherwise, we cannot ride roughshod over them and we cannot order them to do this thing. So what is the way out of this scenario?
No, I think as part of the second administration reform commissions, we have proposed local government reforms. I think a lot of reforms are required, not only in the financial sector and all that, but the way in which the governments are structured at the local level, or the structuring itself is a problem there in the local government. If you closely watch, they overlap the jurisdiction of each other, and there are too many local governments doing the same kind of jobs and all that kind of thing. So I think one left hand doesn't know even within the local government, left hand doesn't know the right hand doesn't know the left hand what they are doing and all that. So I think there is a lot of jurisdictional issues, so I think, and secondly, there is no accountability because local governments are not elected government. They are on a paper elected government, but authority lies with the bureaucrats. The authority is not with the elected representatives. If you see Mayor of Delhi, he doesn't have a damn power about doing anything.
Right.
It's a commissioner which is appointed, and he runs the show and all that. So there is a mismatch there. A political person is actually at least accountable in 5 years. This bureaucrat is never accountable for anything.
Right. In trying to look for a solution, Sajanji, since you are an advocate, you must. I'll come back to you, Gyanendraji, to continue with this aspect. I was asking a legal scenario about the legal scenario as far as businesses are concerned. Sajanji, being an advocate, you must be aware of a lot of cases where it is not the state versus an individual, but the state versus a company. Well, mostly small companies, on different kinds of litigations and matters like that. What from the legal fraternity can you do to improve the ease of doing business in India? Because one big problem with businessmen is litigations.
Very good question. Very good question. Being a lawyer, being a corporate lawyer, I can tell you what the problem is being faced by the company, basically MSME sector. Although, if the government will put more and more hurdle law, that will give benefit to us, the lawyer, most, I will tell you. But even then, ease of doing business on the paper. Ease of doing business is only on the paper. Suppose that A small company want to set up their business, open a company in the Delhi, nearby Delhi. What they need to do, first they have to take the fund from the bank. Lot of paperwork, lot of you have to put the collateral security. It will take not less than 6 months to take the loan from a bank. After that, you purchase a land. That is again a hurdle. Patwari, this government authority, sanction, lot of things you have to purchase the land. Now, after getting purchased the land, you want to construct a building on that. You have to obtain the sanction from the local authority. After getting the sanction from, you have to apply for the land use change. Lot of hurdle. When you construct the building, you have to ask the completion certificate again. Every step there is a paperwork. Every step. Moment you will go a step ahead, there is a hurdle. Again you cross the hurdle, there is a more hurdle. So what is the solution? Solution is the one window business solution. You have to say not only the pollution certificate, not only environmental certificate, completion certificate, and the construction certificate. Every certificate you need from the one window. You create a company, create an office like that, where a person from the beginning, from putting a Bhumi Pujan to the construction and starting the business from export to import, whatever it is, you have to give the address all these issues by giving in one window solution. That everything you can get clearance from the only one window, that is the suffice. Otherwise, it will create hurdle more and more, and your ease of doing business is only remain in the paper.
I think at least in two of the budgets that Arun Jaitley had presented, he had talked about reducing the litigious the burden of litigations, but we haven't heard anything more over that. There is an additional problem, Sajanji, in your field of work, which is the socialist attitude of judges. What I see in all these cases, take for instance the AGR of the telecom sector. The way these Supreme Court judges scolded the advocates who were fighting for Airtel and Vodafone and all that you must pay by midnight or else all hell will break loose. This kind of, whenever there is a choice between a free market and a state assisted market, even the Supreme Court tends to rule in favor of a socialist thing. Like any Tom, Dick or Harry can tomorrow begin an agitation saying, I demand this much of subsidy. And immediately the Supreme Court will ask the union government, why aren't you giving that poor money, that poor fellow the money he is asking for? They did the same thing in the case of farmer agitation also.
Essentially,
that is our legal system is a cumbersome process. May I answer?
Yes.
May I answer?
Yes,
our legal system is a cumbersome process, and I'm sorry to say our legal system has not been equipped with the current scenario where a rapid economic development is taking place in the society, and the judiciary has not changed its mindset. That I'm sorry to say. There is three types of litigation: civil litigation, criminal litigation. Nowadays, that is corporate litigation. That is
right.
And corporate litigation need to be addressed differently. There is an arbitration mechanism that has been evolved by the court. You need not go to the civil court to address the dispute. Whatever dispute or litigation you have to settle through the arbitration. The mechanism has been developed by the company, whereby company did not go to the court and spend years and years on the lawyers and the litigation and incur your expenses on the litigation side. Only the arbitration, a new arbitration amendment law has been introduced by the government, where every dispute that has been settled within the year only. If the dispute has been arisen today, it has to be settled within the year. It will not go beyond the year. And the arbitration mechanism is that the cases will not be adjourned. Only one arbitrator that has been appointed by the consent of the parties, or if there is a failure of the consent given by the parties, the court will appoint the neutral arbitrator, and every dispute has to be settled within the arbitration. A mechanism of the arbitration, that is and also as well as the
that is probably not being utilized.
And the second aspect is that if the government is involved in the litigation, then the corporate sector has to come in the court. And still the mindset of the judges is that if they are equipped their mindset with the socialist theory that government should be given the taxes, and these are the company which is the bloodsucker of the poor. This is the mindset of the many people of India. They are the bloodsucker vampire. This company, because you don't forget about the fact that the company only give the job to the people. No government sector give the job. Only the private sector which is generate the job. If a private sector company is 100 of crore rupees, that is the turnover is there, they give fodder to the 100 of families of India. That you have to understand. They are not the
Yes,
it is not
that
the
is
corporate will
something which
pocket your
I
money
don't
and
know
go
when
to the
India will
that is
begin
not
to
the case.
appreciate. Yes, Gyanendra ji, make your point.
Actually, you are talking about the problems from municipal corporations and other such problems have been brought in here for discussion. And
Yes.
Surenji has rightly pointed out that the report of second administrative reforms is lying unimplemented.
Yes.
And that is
Very
really
long time.
extremely crucial for this country to become a very strong nation, to become a healthy democracy, to become a $5 trillion economy, whatever we want to do. A lot of solutions lie there in that report, Second Administrative Reform Commission.
Yes.
So that discussion actually has vanished from public debate, public consciousness, and that must be brought forward. A lot of solutions are there.
Right.
So judicial issues have to be resolved. So the solutions are there. Police reforms, those solutions are there. Electoral reforms, those solutions are there. Administrative reforms, those are available there. So we must actually work on that. And
I
government
think
has
Surendra ji, if I'm not wrong, Veerappa Moily was the head of that second administrative
Second
reforms
law commission.
committee. Yes. So now, in the event that this current government brings it up, the Congress wouldn't have much to object to because it was their initiative, right?
I can't guarantee that because I think the opposition in this country is to oppose. So I think I will not comment on that. But coming back to the budget proposal, budget proposal, I think initially I said that rule of law is the key to the success of economy. So, and particularly MSME sector and small sector and all that, they are directly affected by the lack of rule of law in this country. And lack of rule of law does not mean only I'm talking about policing or crime investigation. I'm talking about civil jurisdiction also. Because in the a simple collection of a creditor from a creditor becomes a tedious job. If I have to collect, a small company has to collect say 5 lakhs rupees, and they have to wait for 5 years, pay interest, and they have to spend about 1 lakh of rupees to our lawyers like Mr. Sajjan Singh. Sorry to say that, but where is the incentive to collect that money? So why can't we have
very clearly? You know, as we were discussing yesterday, even while discussing the budget, I'm also of an opinion that we make too much of this one-day exercise of budget, because a government is supposed to constantly work on the systems throughout the year, not just on February, not just on the 1st of every February. So therefore, this exercise could be as simple as the finance minister coming with a sheet of paper and placing it on the table of the parliament and going away. No live telecast, no big newspaper coverage. We just blow it out of proportion. As a result of which, our expectations go much beyond. Take, for instance, we are talking about the bureaucracy right now. Now, bureaucracy is something that the budget cannot handle. It is beyond the, it's beyond the pay grade of Nirmala Sitharaman. That is something that Modi has to do. And on some other day, not on the budget day. So therefore, when we are talking about the interlinking of systems, finance is not an isolated thing. The monetary aspect of the country is not an isolated thing. There are things that the government must do. And that reminds me of the fact that in the first term of the Modi government, he was constantly saying that there are thousands of redundant laws that his government has done away with. Has it had any impact at all? Because what are those laws? I was hearing once Vivek Devroy saying in a lecture that during the colonial era, there were rules. Take, for instance, there is a canal going through Delhi, and the British, to keep the Indian crowd under control, had ruled that the shops on this side of the canal will open on these weekdays, and on the other side of the canal would open on other days. So this was a ridiculous law, which they did away with. And similarly, they went to different states. They asked what are the laws that are causing problems, did away with them. Yet, the abolition of so many laws doesn't seem to have any impact. Surendraji.
Yeah, of course. How can it be? It have an impact. The issue of the law is not the construct of law. How that is implemented is the problem. I can assure you that at every level, the interpretation of law changes. The desk officer interprets in a different manner. His boss interprets in a different manner. But by the time they interpret among themselves, the person who is demanding the justice is suffering.
Yes.
So it's a question of interpretation. Therefore, the civil services reforms are the key to success of economy. We have been arguing with the government, including the this prime minister, that civil services reform from the day one, in fact, is he has to take somewhere he has to take a call and do away with the kind of bureaucracy which we have. At least from the level of beyond the director level, I think there should be a parallel entry of experts coming in on a contract basis and pay them damn good salary equivalent to the corporates. If there are enough people in the corporates or there are enough people in the private sector, Sajan Singh is sitting there, Ganesh is sitting there, if they can go parallelly there with their expertise, then they can deliver in 5 years, and they don't want to hold money. Of course, money should be there as per the salary of the corporates, but they have also a service-oriented mind, which they can deliver something. But that is not happening, and unfortunately, civil services reforms, police reforms, these are the last, I think, these are the last reforms which will happen only when everything will collapse. That's how I read the situation. I'm sorry to say that.
Right.
And
so
for this very purpose, I had joined the
it's your turn.
Administrative reforms.
I'm coming to you, Gyanendra. We are now we are now moving towards the end of the program. So I'd like each one of you to give us solutions. So there are certain solutions that Surendraji has proposed. One is, of course, downsizing of the bureaucracy, streamlining of the jobs, and lateral entry. What else, Gyanendraji? What else are the solutions?
See, judicial reforms are also a part of Second Administrative Reform Commission report.
Yes.
Alongside that, electoral reforms are also part of that committee report. So those are very crucial reforms. But to implement that, we'll have to have a lot of civil awareness, basically. We will have to demand it. We will have to agitate for it. We will have to raise our voices, because governments are not amenable to this. They are not agreeable to this because they enjoy power. They enjoy their influence over judges, etc., etc. And they manipulate things and public through them only.
Right.
And that's the problem.
Right.
So that demands civil movement, civil agitation.
Sujit I think solutions are already accounted for. There are many reports other than the Second Administration Reform Commissions. There are 15 reports in the on various subjects in the Second Administration Reform Commission. The question is, Sujit, your question should be, how do we achieve that?
How do we achieve that? I'm taking that question to Sajanji with an example. In one of my interviews with retired IPS officer Prakash Singh, on whose initiative the Supreme Court gave those guidelines for police reforms. Now, what has been happening for the past more than a decade now with the police reforms, proposed police reforms, is every time the hearing comes up in the Supreme Court, the chief secretaries of different states come over and they give a hell lot of rubbish kinds of reasons. And if anybody else dares to do that, the Supreme Court would slap him with a contempt of court notice for not implementing the court order. But in the case of dealing with bureaucracies, suddenly even the judiciary develops cold feet. There's no reprobation, there is no rebuke, nothing. The chief secretary just gives a template kind of response in the hearing and goes away, gets away with murder. Yes. Sajanji.
Sujit, irony of this police reform and the police law is that if simple police wala of a thana with a danda can go to a company of having 100 crores turnover and put the shutter down.
Yes,
that is
I have a different question for you.
No.
When police reforms come up for hearing in the Supreme Court, why is the highest court of the country so scared of chief secretaries of states?
No, let me make my submission.
Yes.
By giving an example, I will address the issue. Second
Yeah.
example I want to give. A company was set up in the coast of Andhra, and the local fishermen body filed a PIL and Supreme Court while saying so. If this product pollute the sea coast and the fishes are dying, till years that company remain closed. Business gone,
Okay.
capital gone, everything gone. After years, the court arrived on the conclusion, no, the sea coast is not been polluted by this company, so let it be open. By the time the judgment was delivered, company gone.
Right.
This is the irony of this company. What need to do? What in this situation? What need to do? You have to evolve a system. Don't form a committee or commission, otherwise it will go in Thandavas. Because the economy, our economy, need a quick solution. How it will be delivered? You have to set up a different type of judiciary where the judges will be appointed with a clear mind, open mind, having equipped with a economic intelligence. Otherwise, there is a situation, different situation. A same yardstick cannot be applied for a simple citizen and a corporate body of having thousands of crores of rupees.
So
Law has to be
obviously it won't be
evolved
applied
differently.
on bureaucrats
Mechanism
either.
has to be evolved differently. A judgment has to be delivered definitely. So system has been evolved in two aspects. First, law will be applied, economic law will be applied with par with the international body. And second, the person who is sitting in this arbitration commercial court will equipped with all the system and with open mind. They will decide within a limited time frame. The cases will not be linger years, 2 years, but within the limited time of frame. Suppose that if a company wants 50,000 rupees from another body, 5 years will be taken. That time, what is the need of that money?
Yes.
So there will be quick delivery system, and the corporate dispute must be settled within this limited time frame, within months, days, not years. Don't put a years, otherwise it will die.
Right.
The solution need to be done.
So we conclude with the message that the budget is not a standalone exercise. The government as a whole, the state governments as well as local governments included, need to usher in an era of reforming the systems part by part everywhere, reforming the administration, reforming the judiciary, reforming the police, and only then we can move to a better economically managed India. Just looking up to one day of the year and expecting that everything will be set in the right order by a magic wand is not going to happen. With that message, we have completely run out of time. Thank you for being with us. Jai Hind.
Thank you.
Jai Hind.